My name is Laura Parke. I'm a full-time scuba diving instructor here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the name of my company is privatescubalessons.com. But I'm filming today live from the Miami Beach Marina because we're going on an afternoon dive to the Neptune, which is a topic of another video, but today we're going to talk about conditions. Conditions are the weather conditions, of course, and there's 4 elements to the weather conditions, but this is something that you need to assess for yourself. Even if your dive buddy is somebody who's massively experienced, they may have different needs and levels of motion sickness than you do, so it's something that you need to judge for yourself. We're going to talk about the 4 elements of what conditions are. The first one is the one that pretty much bothers most people if you do have motion sickness, and that's the surf. The surf is the top of the water. What does that look like? Well, it's always nice on a beautiful flat day, which is 0 to 1 feet, to go out diving. And what does drive the surf? It's the wind. It's actually wind speed that actually blow the top of the surface water that makes the surf. And there has to be very little wind for the surf to be flat. 2 to 4 foot seas is considered bumpy. And white caps, if you all are familiar with that term, are what happens when the wave is so big that the crest, the very top of the wave, starts to blow over and push white foam water on. And if you see white caps out at sea, you know that it's every bit of bumpy. It cannot be flat if there are white caps out. The next one is 5 to 7 foot, which we consider rough. And really, that is kind of too much surf action to go out at sea. And remember, you're going to be out there for 2 tank dive. So you're out there for about 4 hours. So you should definitely make sure you know your motion sickness tolerance if you have any at all. And remember to eat. Do not go out to sea on an empty stomach. But when you call the dive boat and you ask the captain, where are you going today? You want to know about depth, but you also want to ask him, what's the sea like? And these are the conditions that they're going to lie to you about. Now, why would they lie to you? Well, because if it's bumpy and they told you that, you may go diving or put diving off for another day. And they don't want you to do that. When it's rough, they want you to go diving, of course, because they want your money. And I'm telling you, this is something where wisdom comes in, and wisdom is making good choices with the information that you're given. If you see white caps out at sea and they tell you, oh, it's flat, but you see the wind blowing and you look out to sea and see white caps, you know that they're lying to you. Okay, and this is why I'm making this video. So you go out and have a good time. I want you to have a good time. And the reason people don't return to scuba diving or do it again is because they have a bad time. I'm all about having you have a good time, and I promise you you'll have a good time if you come scuba diving with me. How do I ascertain? I don't live next to the beach, but how do I ascertain whether there's bumpy surf or not? There's 2 websites I'm going to direct you to. This one, National Data Buoy Center of NOAA, and we all know that NOAA is National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.gov. And here in Florida, we have webcams in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and Martin County at a1aweather.com. That's where I go to look at the surf myself. The next thing you're going to ask the boat captain when you go out diving is, where are you going and what's the depth like? Because you have to know that so you can ascertain whether your skill level is up to the diving depth. And you're going to have to ask them, how deep is it if you don't know the shipwreck? And decide whether that's something that you want to participate in. Typically, when you're an open water diver, we suggest that you don't go past 60 feet. When you've developed some skill level, you can dive between 60 and 100 feet, but we highly recommend you take the advanced open water course. And in my professional opinion, this is something that should be mandatory. However, it's not. But I'm advising you, if you really get into diving, the advanced open water course is something that you want to take. You get 6 more dives with me. We work on buoyancy, navigation, fish and coral identification, and wreck diving and drift diving underneath the water. I also give you tips on photography during the advanced open water course if that's something that you're interested in. But I want you to know too that there are 5 shipwrecks in the state of Florida you must be advanced open water certified to go on. And that's a topic for another video. The next water column is 100 to 130 feet deep, and we highly suggest that you take the deep diver course if you're going to do any depths within that skill level. The next condition is visibility, and that's pretty much a very important one too. And here in Florida, if we've had a lot of rain, that rain runoff tends to wash into the ocean and limit visibility. But our typical visibility is anywhere between 60 and 100 feet every single day unless we've had rain or sustained winds where it's been rough. 100 foot of visibility is great because wherever you look you can see things. And 100 feet would be from here to the big yacht in the background there. 50 feet of visibility would probably be just beyond, if you see the shrubs right behind me, a little bit farther beyond that. And 10 feet of visibility is probably what I'm standing away from the camera right now. And if the visibility's poor, it makes for a more challenging dive because you can't see everything. It's hard to navigate when the visibility's poor, but it's important to be able to dive in all kinds of diving conditions. It's been my experience that there are more fish when the water's dirty because they feel more protected. When they're out in the open and the vis is good, they feel like anything can see them, anything can get them. But it's just been my experience that the visibility's poor, I've seen the most marine life. Of course, that doesn't always help photography, but you know, you get what you get when you get it out at sea in terms of conditions. I'm abbreviating some of this lecture because there is so much more to visibility, but I'm just trying to give you a snapshot of it. Hopefully you'll come and take lessons with me and you'll get to hear the entire conditions report in its fullness. The last condition is the current. And the dive boat captain can only tell you what the current or the visibility was like given the previous trip that they did. But, you know, 4 hours later when they go out to sea again, the conditions change. The tide changes every 6 hours from outgoing to incoming, from ingoing to outgoing, and all of that makes the movement of the water. It could be more turbid, it could be more clear. It really just depends here in Florida where the Gulf Stream is. But no or mild current, you're going to jump in the water. Once you sink down to the bottom and get your bearings, you're going to a compass heading, preferably swim north into the bow, and the bow could be pointing any direction. I just happened to say north. You're going to swim half your dive, right? You start out with 3,000 pounds of air. At 1,500 pounds of air, you're going to turn around from that north heading and come back south. By the time you do that, you'll probably have maybe 8,000 pounds of air. You'll be right back underneath the boat, hopefully, if you were good at navigation. And again, a reason to take the advanced course so you can practice navigation underneath the water and end up back at the boat. But if the current's moderate or severe, that's something that you're not going to swim against. And this is some of the most fun diving I consider called drift diving. Something, again, that we practice in the advanced course. Drift diving is that we drift with the current. And this is better than any e-ride ticket at Disney, I promise you, or your money back. You jump in the water column sweeps you along. You run low on air, you come up to the surface, the dive boat sees your head pop up next to the dive flag, because somebody's always going to be carrying a dive flag when you go drift diving, and the boat drifts with you. They do not anchor to the bottom. They're moving with the water column with you. Why I love this is because you don't have to worry about the boat, where it is. You just think about your dive the whole time and you enjoy it. You don't have to swim because the water column moves you. And typically when there is a moderate or severe current, the water tends to be clearer here because of the Gulf Stream. So this is some of my all-time favorite type of diving to do. And Palm Beach, Florida is pretty much the drift diving capital of Florida. The reefs are nice there because boats can't anchor and beat up the reef because the current's too strong. And there's one dive in Palm Beach called the Corridor, and if the current's in the right place at the right time, you can drift to 4 different shipwrecks in one single dive. And it's awesome. The Corridor is one of some of the best dives we have. In fact, I think it's one of the top 5 dives we have in the state of Florida. So that's a snapshot, if you will, of the conditions. I could go on and talk about some of these in depth, but I don't want to make the video too long, and I don't want to give you all my secrets. You got to come here and experience them for yourself. So my name is Laura Parke, privatescubalessons.com. You can also Google my name, Laura, L-A-U-R-A, P-A-R-K-E, and you'll find me. Thanks for tuning in.